All right, let's just get this right along the way. I found this little massage extender in Dollar Tree today. It was only $1, obviously, and I had some ideas for it. It does this little notion right here, and I really liked the idea I had with it. So, the idea here is just a DIY pencil extender. A pencil extender, for anybody who doesn't know, it's a tool that you use to have a better grip on some of these shorter pencils, which is extremely important because those short pencils, especially if they're like an inch long, they're very useful, but they cramp your hand when you use them. So when I got around to actually trying to remove the massage part, I had no real idea what to do. Machined onto the pole from the inside. So the only way I could do is break it. And as much as I didn't want to do that, I kind of had to. So I tossed it aside. What I actually ended up doing was taking off this part right here. Ew, when I say it like that, I sound like a Canadian. We do a fast forward and all that good stuff. I took off the furthest piece because I couldn't get that plastic part out. I ended up breaking that part off, but I still found out that it really didn't work, and it was too narrow for the pencils that I use, or the pencils in general. So that kind of didn't work. I ended up, because this is sharp metal, kids be careful, sharp metal is very sharp, I ended up nicking my hand, and you can actually see that right, yeah. So I just tried to work my way around the sharp metal. I put some tape on it as well. That kind of worked, but it didn't really work, not in the way that I wanted. So the moment of realization came when I just took out all of my shorter pencils that I actually wanted to use. Those pencils weren't too short. Well, there's one there. They weren't too short, but they were short enough to where they would cramp my hand if I were to actually use them for an extended period of time, like I ended up doing later on. I ended up taking out 2 of my dip pens just to test to see if they actually would work, but they didn't really work neither. And the denial is here. I kept tapping on the actual end of the hole just to make sure it maybe didn't fit. So now I did a little skip where I actually took off the fourth most tube. And as you see, the dip pen fit well, and the pencils fit just a little bit, but I had to just loosen up the opening because it was actually bent towards that end. So once I got that, I ended up just adding on some wires, as well as adding on some wires. I can't talk. I ended up bending the actual inward so I can make sure it worked properly. And once I did that, the pencil fit like it was supposed to. And luckily, I can extend it, and right from, I think, about 2 feet away, if I actually were to hold everything from my fingertips. I really like the idea, and I'm glad the execution wasn't too difficult. Overall, it took me about 10 minutes to actually make this the way I wanted. I ended up just bending the metal a little bit more with my pliers just to make sure. The screwdriver kind of became unnecessary here, but I ended up using it a little later. I mark off the end with some tape just to make sure the tube doesn't go too far back, and then I actually ended up cutting that tape in half just to make sure I can keep it as short as possible, which again was extremely helpful. But that's kind of it for that one. I was so into the actual making of it, I kind of forgot that I was so far down on the camera. And because the sharp metal actually was super sharp, it scraped a lot of the finish that was on the pencil off. So that's where those little dust particles came from on the paper. Luckily, you all could see it. And I actually just compared it with the standard size of the regular pencils I had. These two I never really used because they were both HB, and I don't really use HB lead like that, but it worked, so yeah. And then even with the longer pencil, I actually have an extended reach because, you know, it's a long pencil. And I did a little bit of a doodle here just to test out whether or not I can actually hold it. The balance is very awful until you get towards the other end, which is kind of how I feel for a lot of pencil extenders that have been used. Just from my research and seeing how they work, it actually looks very much the same way. But for the shorter pencils and that shorter distance, it works exactly like it's supposed to. I liked it. I really did. This was one of my favorite contraptions that I've done in the last few days. I've been making a lot of stuff just because of boredom. So that's that right there, just compared. And now we are on to test this little guy with a full-on pencil drawing from a distance. Alright, so on to the drawing. I ended up erasing some of the markings that I made earlier just to free up some real estate from the overall piece. And sometimes when I erase some of those markings, it actually kind of shows me what I should draw, or at least what I should draw around in order to get a good piece. So that's what I ended up doing here. I started off with just the regular, what was that? I think it was 2H. I think you saw it earlier, just a regular 2H pencil. And I was at a distance of about 4 feet in total because I just extended my entire arm and everything, which made it a lot harder to draw. Who knew? You know? Very funny. So I had a slight cave system in my head after about the first 30 seconds. I really liked where it was going, and then about 2 minutes later, I really decided right here where I was drawing, I wanted that to be a ship, just because it looked a little too big to be a rock, or at least not big enough to be anything of real significance to the actual environment. I ended up making that the staple of the piece, and I made that a ship. And I really liked doing that. So I added on to it, I gave it some water, and I just kept adding on to the background afterwards. And that's kind of where I ended up going here. Some of these pencils were really hard to get back in and out. I think I need to reshape the entry point of the pencil extender now. Once I do that, that'll probably help it out a lot more. Right now I'm just speculating because I haven't tried it, but it'll probably work, I hope. So now I'm just outlining a lot of the piece that I already drew with 9B right now, as well as 7B, 2B, and what was it, 8B? I think the 8B lead was the shortest that I had in my pocket that I was using. I had just took a couple of these out of my jar and just used these random lead types, but they work to make us a nice piece, in my opinion. Yeah, I wasn't too sure about where I wanted the lighting at first, and then I kept adding on to the ceiling of the cave, which gave it a bit more definition. And then I thought how it could be more of reflections of the water, so I worked with that, and then that spread down the entirety of the wall, and I just kept outlining a little bit more of that. I really liked that right there. And I don't even know what I should call it, but the edge to the left, just that giant chunk of whatever that I'm outlining right now. I don't know what I wanted that to be. I think in my head it was going to be an arm of some sort, and then I kind of went away from that concept, but I kept it for some odd reason. I don't know why. That's how That's how my head works sometimes. So yeah, shadows in the water, as well as a couple other things. So at the time, I was actually on a slight business call with an associate. We were talking about the website that we were going to develop. Well, we were talking about a website that needed to be updated that had been developed previously, and that gave me some thoughts about what I should do for my own website. And that I really want to keep developing my own website because that's obviously a great place to showcase some art. Not too sure if I want to yet though. No time like the present, I should say though. So after I added a lot more dark details, I ended up adding onto the background, or at least the outside of the cave, because we're inside of the cave looking out. I added a slight silhouette of a mountain that I, in retrospect, kind of should have added onto. I'll have to change that a little later. It's a little weird. I liked it at first. I don't know why. I kind of kept it that simple. I don't know what that other thing is. Maybe a tree of some sort. I don't know why I added that. Again, a random doodle is a random doodle. Mostly. I don't know why I added that. I did enjoy the sky effect that I made here. I'm not too sure what maybe it could be a silhouette alluding to something else that's bigger outside of the cave, like a mountain, or it could just be a snow effect, possibly. I'm not too sure. I enjoyed it and I liked the shapes that it made. So now I just added some extra details and crevices, signed up everything, and that's kind of it. I wanted to keep this one short. I ended up going with this one for about 30 minutes. I didn't really want to go too long with it, but there's that, and there's the finished piece right here. That's kind of it. I kind of made some modifications a little later, but overall that's kind of it. So I really want to thank you all for watching the video. I really hope you learned how to make your own little pencil extender, because that idea was so random that it actually kind of worked. So I want to thank you all again. I hope you enjoyed this video enough to give it a like. I hope you share the video as well. Tell me what you thought in the comments below. Also consider subscribing and just supporting the channel and everything. And also when you do post something in the comments, let me know if you really learn how to make a pencil extender. Until then, I'll see you all later.